Paying people across countries, banks, or currencies can be difficult. You have to deal with delayed settlements, currency conversion fees, and inconsistent infrastructure. So whether you're running payroll, distributing cashbacks, or funding rewards, it often means navigating different payment systems, juggling bank integrations, and absorbing high operational costs. Even in crypto, sending money to multiple recipients, especially across different chains, can be slow and expensive. Each transfer is its own transaction, which means more fees, more signatures, and more room for things to go wrong. The more recipients you add, the more tedious and error-prone the process becomes. But what if you could handle all of that in a single transaction? Imagine making payouts to multiple people, even across chains, in one atomic core, where everything executes together or not at all. No partial transfers, no duplicated steps, no room for manual errors. That's what Atomic Batch Transaction enables. With Circle CCTP, Circle Wallets, and Thirdweb Engine, you can build your own programmable payout flow that works across chains using USDC as a settlement layer. My name is Elton Tay, Developer for Circle, and in this video, I'll show you how to batch USDC payouts at scale with CCTP, Circle Wallets, and Thirdweb Engine. Let's get into it. Before we start building, here's what you need to have set up. First, a Circle developer account. You use this to generate your API key, entity secret, which are required to create and manage your Circle wallets. Second, make sure you have Docker installed. We use this to simulate Thirdweb Engine locally, then this acts as your backend server for wallet creation and with transaction signing. Third, you need a Thirdweb account. From there, generate an API key, SS token, and wallet credentials to authenticate your engine. And finally, fork and download two Replit templates to run locally. One for hosting the Thirdweb Engine and the other for the front-end sample app. So let's get started. Here is basically replit.com at Build on Circle, a page where we host most of our sample apps. And the two sample apps that we like to focus on is the Thirdweb Engine and Circle Wallets, as well as a USDC Atomic Batch sample app, which uses CCTP, Thirdweb Engine, and Circle Wallets. So click onto this one, which is the self-hosted. Click on Remix Template. Click on Use Template. Inside here, go to the top left, open the files, click on the three dots icon, and download as zip. This is required because you have to run it locally to on your preferred code editor of your choice, so it can connect and communicate to Docker. So click on download as zip. I've already downloaded, so you go ahead and do that. Once you have done that, do the same for the other template. Go into USDC Atomic Batch, click on Remix Template, click Use Template, and same thing, right? Top left, go to three dots icon, and click on download as zip. Once you have downloaded both files locally, open on the code editor of your choice. I'm using Cursor, and the first one will look like this, right? And in here is basically a YAML file, which is here, and it has three things, right? You can read everything here. Basically, it has a Thirdweb engine, uses Postgres for database storage, and uses Redis for caching. And in here, you need a few environment variables. First, copy the sample, right? Environment sample, .env.sample, and then configure it in your .env file, your environment variable file. And the variables that you require would be the Thirdweb API secret key, and the admin wallet address is associated to the Thirdweb account. So what do I mean? Please go to thirdweb.com, and in here you would be welcome to their dashboard, where in the overview you have to create the project of a choice. Once you have created a project, go into here under project settings, scroll down, and you will be able to find the API key for Thirdweb. So this is obtained to be pasted into your environment variable file, right? Replace the variable. And also for the admin wallet address, you will see in the top right for your account, there's a wallet associated to it. Make sure that this wallet address is the same as the one that is stipulated inside Docker. Once you have it, right, save it in your .env file. All you need to do now is make sure that Docker is open and running. I've already running over here. All you need to do is key in the command, which is docker compose up -d Click enter, and you can see that it's running and healthy, right? Once running, you can actually access the Thirdweb Engine. In this case, go back to your Thirdweb Engine, the Thirdweb page. Click onto Engines. Click onto Import Engines. In this case, I already have an engine instance running because I have already imported it. But for those who have not, click on Import Engine, give it a name, and for this URL, give it http :// localhost :3005. This is the endpoint that this is the endpoint that Docker has opened so that it allows you to communicate to it as a backend. So once you have it running and you click Import Engine, you have a page that looks something like this. Once you are here, there's a few more things you need to get to finish setting up. You can actually read all the documentations that I have listed inside the README file. Basically, inside the Thirdweb Engine, go to Configuration, right, which is at the bottom. Click onto Circle, the Circle tab, and in here, they're asking you for the Circle API key. So for here, you need to create a Circle developer account. Go to the console.circle.com, create an account if you have not. And in here, once you've created an account and logged in, you'll be presented with this dashboard. And on the top left, go to API and client keys. And that's where you can go and create your own API key. So once you have done that, paste the Circle API key here and save it. And once you have done that, go to Wallet Credentials. And you need to click on Create Wallet Credential. Click on Circle, give it a label name, and they're asking you for the entity secret, right? You can actually click Learn About Entity Secret Management here, or you could actually go back to the dashboard. Under Wallets, you see Dev Control Wallet. Click on to Configurator, click onto Entity Secret, and you can click on Learn Registration Process. In here, you can follow the Quick Start Guide, the interactive guide that is recommended, right? To kind of like go through and see how you can generate the entity secret. It might be as simple as this. And once you have done generating your entity secret, go back to the Thirdweb Engine dashboard and paste the entity secret you have generated. Once you've done that, click on Create, and you would have a wallet credential created inside the Thirdweb Engine. Now that you have the configuration and wallet credentials set up, you can actually now start using the Thirdweb Engine to create and manage Circle wallets and perform the signing of transactions. So back here is kind of like the success. So this is step 1 for basically running your self-hosted Thirdweb Engine on Docker and having it as like a backend server. So once you have done that, head over to your second repository, which is the Thirdweb Atomic Batch Transaction app. Right in here, same, go and copy the environment.sample file and name it as .env.local. You can follow the steps in README as well, and they'll tell you what environment variables that you require to kind of run this sample app. So you need 3 things. You need the Thirdweb credential ID, the SS token, and the Circle API key. Circle API key is the same as before. Just duplicate it and paste into your environment file. For the credential ID and the SS token, you can obtain it also through the engine dashboard. You can actually get the wallet credential here. So for the Thirdweb credential ID, once you've created the wallet credential, you just need to copy the credential here and paste it into your environment variable. The second one, which is the SS token, you can see it over here. Just click onto it, create your own SS token. And once you've created the SS token, just paste it in here. Save it, and you are ready to get started. To spin up this sample app, make sure again to have the Docker running. You can see that it is running by opening up Docker. And once you are in the sample app, just run npm run dev. Give it a moment. and it'll ask you to go to localhost with the endpoint 3000. This is the sample app that I'll be demoing today, which showcases CCTP, and Circle Wallets, and Thirdweb Engine. So here, what's going to happen is I'm going to start by creating a source wallet, which is basically to simulate a sender. For example, if you want to send to multiple recipients, right? Let's take this as the sender. So I'm going to go ahead and create a source wallet. Just going to click create, give it a moment, and it should be created. You see an address being generated, and the balance of USDC would most likely be 0. So to start, we want to fund this wallet with some money. So I want to fund it with first the native token, because it's on Ethereum Sopolia. I do want to fund it with some native ETH. And then secondly, I want to give it some USDC so I can start testing this sample app. So what I want to do now is to copy the address, go into any native faucet of your choice. In this case, I'm using Google. Google Cloud actually has a very easy way to get like ETH, Sopolia ETH. I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to click on create. I'm going to click on receive 0.05 Sopolia ETH. So this is for you to actually perform transactions on the chain. You can see that it's pending. And while waiting, let's go ahead to faucet.circa.com. In here, you can actually send to addresses as well. You can choose a network. In this case, I'll be using Ethereum Sopolia, and I'll be sending to the address that, which is the sender, the source wallet, 10 testnet USDC. So once done, I'm going to go back to the sample app, give it a little bit more moment. I'm going to click on refresh, and it should show 10 USDC. If not, I'm going to go ahead and create my recipients in the meantime. So I'm going to click on add recipient. In this case, at this moment of time of recording, we support for CCTP V2, base Sopolia, Avalanche Fuji, Linear Sopolia. These are all testnets. So we support Ethereum, base, Avalanche, and Linear, all 4 chains, and more to come. So I'm just going to create all 3. Just showcase first base Sopolia. So I'm going to click on create recipient wallet here. I'm going to add another recipient on the same chain. You can see here that we have now 10 USDC. I'm going to add one more recipient, just make it more robust. So here you can see I have 1 sender and 3 recipients, all generated through Thirdweb Engine, right? I will go through the codes, but you can see that it's all being generated. If you go to the engine, you can see that we actually have created a couple of addresses, 0x00b1, basically, we will see all the addresses being generated from the Thirdweb Engine. But what I want to do now is to try to send USDC in one transaction through all 3 recipients. So I'm just going to send 1 USDC, 1 USDC, 1 USDC for now. I'm going to click on batch transfer. So what's happening here right now is it's bundling on the source chain, the approve and multiple burn transactions. So we have like 3 burn transactions and 1 approval of 3 USDC to be spent on the source chain, the sender's wallet. And that transaction is bundled together in this one atomic transaction and being sent on the source chain, which is Ethereum Sopolia. So once it's done, you can see that transaction has been completed. And now we're waiting for Circle to attest that it has been successfully burned before we can mint on the destination chain, which is base Sopolia. And what's happening on the destination chain is that we're also using atomic batch transaction to batch all the mint function calls. In this case, there'll be 3 function calls into 1 transaction and send it. So we can see that less than a minute, we have burned, approved and burned. You can see it all here in 1 transaction. And you can also see the mint on base Sopolia all in one transaction. So actually what you can do right now is click on refresh. And you can see that each of the recipients have indeed received 0.99 USDC, taking away the small fee that has incurred through the movement of USDC from one chain to another. So moving 3 USDC in less than a minute from Ethereum to Base. Now let's give it a go for Avalanche, right? Let's refresh. This shows 0. Let's give this a go. And I'm just going to refresh it. Here should show 7 now because we have sent 3 USDC. And the rest should show 0 because they do not have USDC on Avalanche. They do have it on Base. So what you can do, right, is click on Reset Transfer at the top right. So you can try it again. Click an amount that you like to send to each of the recipients. I'll send 1 again to each of them. I'm going to click on Send Batch Transaction. And this same process as before. It's sending 3 USDC, first approving 3 USDC to be burnt, making 3 burn basically transactions, bundling all 4 of them together, sending onto the source chain, which is Ethereum. And then once it has been successfully sent, right, Circle would attest to that burn and then subsequently mint on the Avalanche Fuji. So everything's happened in just 2 transactions. 1 on the source, 1 on the destination. So give it a little bit more moment. And then you can see here, you have indeed approve and burn as well, right? And now it's receiving tokens on the Avalanche Fuji. And it'll be most likely minting it very, very soon. And you can see that the mint has been successful over here as well for Avalanche Fuji. Everything has been received on the recipient. You can actually click on refresh the balance to see this has now become 4. This has become 0.99 for each of these 3. So great. So let's run it off with linear this time around. Let's go with linear. Let's basically, let's do a quick refresh for all of them. This should show 0, 0, 0. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to click on Reset Transfer once more. I'm going to send 1 USDC each. Just to end off this example. Click on Send Batch Transaction again. Again, it's happening on Ethereum this time around. And the destination in this case would be Linear Sepolia. And each of them will receive 1 USDC. Taking away fees would be 0.99. So what's actually happening under the hood? You can actually see most of the magic happening in the services called CCTP service.ts. You can see in this file, we have a bunch of API calls. Basically, it's our backend, right? That communicates to the Thirdweb Engine. Here, you can see that we use the attestation that Circle has, right? We use this to call the Circle endpoint to fetch whether they have approved that the event has actually been burnt. And if yes, we use that attestation to mint on the destination chain. You can see again here, just wrap off that on linear, we have received 1 USDC on each chain. You can do a quick refresh. It should show 1, and the rest should show 0.99, 0.99, 0.99. And awesome. That's how you actually can, move USDC easily from one chain to another in a very scalable manner. But now I'm going to just take time to really run through the codes and so that you guys can understand what's actually happening. So attestation, I'm not going to run through everything, but quickly, this is a call to the Circle endpoint, basically to check in a loop, right? It goes in a loop and check whether it's been successful. If it yes, and we move on to the next stage. This is basically an endpoint that to call to the Thirdweb Engine to check on Thirdweb's site whether whether the transaction has actually been mined successfully on the respective chain. And there's also a way for us to like see in our logic when to move on to the next stage, whether the transaction has indeed successfully executed or reverted. You can see a bunch of other calls here where inside you can call like the balance, and that's what happens whenever we click refresh. We're calling the API endpoint. You can see we are calling the respective USDC on the respective chain. These are all dynamic with respect to the wallet address, and returns the amount of USDC and show on the front end. In here is how you can create smart circle wallets through Thirdweb Engine by calling the endpoint backend -wallet /create. And in here, these are all basically endpoints, which I'll show the codes later, are all referencing our backend endpoints. Receive is where we call the destination endpoint. This is also another atomic batch transaction call that batches all of the receive functions to be sent on the destination chain. And transfer is from the source chain by bundling the approve and burns. To see the whole flow, you can actually take a deep dive into the CCTP service. In here at the bottom, do a quick scrolling. You can see for the send atomic batch transactions, what's actually happening is first, we want to encode the cause. We encode it by, telling, by showing what function we want to interact with. We are using the approve followed by the deposit for burn functions. So in a scalable manner, the more recipients you have sending, the more burns transaction that you need to do. So instead of sending like multiple transactions in this case, you just need to send one transaction and bundle all of them together. So we take the data, right? And we fill in the data in accordance to the parameters. In this case, asking for spender, total amount. And for the burn transactions, I've dynamically mapped each recipient and then passing their respective data into the requested parameters in the deposit for burn. And once I've done it, right, you can see inside the encode functions that I have indeed compiled an array of first approve, right, encoded transactions followed by the multiple burn transactions that is to follow. And once I have that, I pass it on to the endpoint, which is the API /wallet /transfer, which is to send the atomic batch transaction over here, right, which is initiated, opened by Docker that allows us to talk to the Thirdweb Engine and basically send that batch transaction. So once it's done, it'll tell you whether or not it's successful, and and ask to return like the transaction hash, right, to kind of, and this is basically where we just want to track like the QID to see whether or not the transaction has been mined successfully or not. So this is how you do things on the source chain. And I'm going to briefly touch on the destination chain. Okay, before that, this is how you wait for attestation. You can see all the logic here, which is basically to communicate to the endpoint that I have previously shared earlier in the attestation domain transaction hash. This is all dynamic again, because we are in my sample application. You see that we're interacting with so many different chains. So I've crafted in a way that is dynamic. For the receive message, this is where we call the endpoint receive. In here, most of the logic I've written in here, to be honest. Sorry, one moment under recipient forms. Yeah, this is how you can actually add recipients. And in here, I'm just going to type receive. You can see that we are in here. we are doing the same thing as before, but in this case on a destination chain, that we are first encoding again, and this time we're encoding the received message function that takes in the message and attestation that you can obtain from the endpoint, the Circle attestation endpoint that returns the message and attestation. From here, right, you take it all, you bundle it all together, because there might be one, there might be two in this case. There are 3 receive message functions to be called. And all these are being called by the sender. So as you can see, I just need to fund the sender, the native ETH and the testnet USDC, and the recipient don't need to have anything to start with, and they can start receiving money instantly. So in here, we are mapping all the different recipients' data from message to attestation. And once we've done, we send it to the backend endpoint, which then communicates to Thirdweb Engine, the basically bundled up data to be called in the atomic batch transaction. So that's basically it. Have a look in the codes, and if you have any questions, you can always let me know. And that's how you can build a simple app that batches USDC payouts at scale using CCTP, Circle Wallets, and Thirdweb Engine with atomic batch transactions. If you want to try it yourself, I've dropped everything you need in the description below. That includes the sample apps, the documentation, and a link to claim $100 in free credits for Circle's developer services, enough for about 1 month of 2,000 wallets, 200,000 smart contract platform API calls, or $95 in sponsored network fees. So thank you for watching, and let me know what else you'd like to see, and I'll catch you in the next one.